over to an editable poly. Let's just play with a couple of the tools that we have available for us, since, after all, this is kind of an introduction to the editable poly itself. This will give you guys kind of an idea, some of the things you can do, and it may get some of you beginners out there really excited about modeling using editable poly objects. So let's start out by just coming over here into our polygon subobject selection. Let's go ahead and open this up. And let's simply select it. Let's grab extrude here, and we'll interactively drag out, I don't know, something about like that, maybe a little bit more, something about like that. Let's come up here into our front viewport. Let's just select across like this. Let's go ahead and do an extrude again, but this time we'll go ahead and open up our settings dialog box. And we don't want to do it by group. You see we get a really weird shifting right here. We'll talk more about that a little bit later. Let's do it by local normal, and let's just go ahead and expand that up. I don't know, something like that. Tell it OK to commit those changes. So this is our exciting shape right now. Not too exciting, huh, Logan?
No.
Let's make it a little bit more interesting. One of the cool things we have access to with editable polys is a rollout that's called subdivision surface. So I'll go ahead and open this up, and I'm going to tell it I want to use NURMS subdivision. So I'll go ahead and activate that. And then down here in display, next to iterations, I'll go ahead and turn my iterations up to, let's say, 2. Now, that's starting to become a little bit more interesting, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Now let's make it look a little bit stranger, just, this is just for examples. I'll go ahead and select the polygon star here in the middle. Let's go ahead and come back up, and let's grab bevel, and let's just kind of bevel this thing. I don't know, we'll go down with it. Let's go ahead and open it up a little bit. Let's go down again to make it a little bit tighter. Open that up perhaps a little bit further. If we wanted to, we could hit F4 now to turn that off so that we don't get so misled by all of the tons of lines all over the place. That could be kind of confusing. So let's go ahead and go down a little bit further now that we have indented that one in. So about right there. And now let's just, let's see, we'll bring this one up and bring it in. And now let's just actually start going up with it. As for what am I creating, I have no idea.
No, whatever it is, it's more organic than it was.
Yes, it is. So now we're starting to work on an actual, I don't know, what would you say? This is some sort of plant or something as opposed to an exotic table, but it gets the job done. So there we go. So that's the top of our. And let's go ahead and come back up here to editable poly, deselect, and there's our very scary looking thing that we've just created. Maybe make little fountains and spraying some water out or something. I don't know. Something crazy, yes indeed. But the idea is we just started from a shape. This was just a star, and within just a few seconds we've gone in here and given it this organic, weird plant looking feel, which was supposed to be a table. Just kidding. Actually, it was. But so moving on. So this is just kind of a look at playing with the editable poly for a second. Now we've got the 5 different subobject levels that we can gain access to. You just saw where I was actually working with the polygon. Before we move out of this whole lesson, let's spend just a second and talk about what they actually are. First, let's go ahead and pick on our box. It's a little bit easier to deal with. Vertex. The vertices themselves are, as we said earlier, just the points in space that are used to connect the actual edges together. And then the polygon surface actually exists between those edges. It's what holds all the edges together, if you will. So I can come in here, I can grab these different these different vertices and simply move them around, okay, for modeling. I can come to edges, and now I can actually, let's go ahead and hit F4 again, turn edge faces on. I can select edges. And yes, I can move edges around as well. Okay, so there I am moving edges around. Borders are something that's only available when working with an editable poly. Let's show you what a border is real quick. I'm going to come over here to Polygon. And let's just select these guys right here and delete them. So now we're left with a giant hole, and because of surface normals, we are seeing right through these 3 sides right there. But we're left with a hole in our geometry, a hole in our mesh. And this hole has a border around it that defines where the actual hole is. So if I now come back up here to border, check this out. Ta-da-da! There's the actual border right there. And this is good because I can now actually cap that border if I wanted to. So with border selected, if I come down here to the Edit Borders rollout, click Cap, that just caps it with a single polygon. Okay? Now, I can apply that all the way back over here. Let's go ahead and come out of subobject mode so that we can select this guy. Let's come down here to border, and he does have a border. Remember when I started out with it being just a shape, and then I went from there? Guess what? There's a giant hole in him right down here. So I can select, Okay, so there you can see it's highlighted in red, or hopefully you can see. And then I can cap that. Now when I cap this is pretty interesting to note. It's not like it's just butting up a new polygon face to the end of your shape that's already there, or your geometry that's already there. It's actually basically welding a whole new polygon into the whole geometry itself. In other words, we won't have multiple vertices at all of my edges right here. It'll just be a single vertex at each edge. So take a look. Tink, cap, and you can see I just proved my point, because now it looks like my geometry right here was smoothed out from the very beginning. Okay?
Right, like as though it was already capped before you started applying the NURMS
You got it. Absolutely. So so there's just a quick look at that. So that's working with or dealing with borders. We also have polygons. Let's go ahead and switch back over here and go back into polygon. Remember we said earlier polygon itself is basically a surface that has 3 or more sides. Well, here's a side or an edge, however you want to look at it. I'm going to start saying edges from now on out because you get the idea. So edge, 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 and they're all held together by that polygon. Okay, simple enough. So you see I can go through here and I can select different polygons. And of course, once I've selected a polygon, if I want to, yes, I can come in, I can scale them, I can slice them, I can add additional detail to them. There's a bunch of different things that I can do when working with the polygon subobject itself. And we'll be looking at those a little bit later on in this VTM. All right, so finally, we've got the element. And what the element is basically it's like the object itself. But you can actually have multiple objects that you've attached all together into one object, and you can still gain access to each of them individually by going to the element subobject.
So you can have multiple elements.
Multiple elements, absolutely. So take a look at this. Right now there's only one in here. I mean, this guy over here is his own object at the moment. But if I come back up here, actually I didn't have to, but if I come back up to editable poly, and I come down here to edit geometry rollout, let's go ahead and open that up, and there's attach. If I have this geometry selected, and I hit attach, and I move my mouse over this guy right here, the moment I click him, a couple things are going to happen. One, I'm going to lose the NURMS that I'm using on him right now. The subdivision surface stuff is going to go away, and he's going to become hard-edged again. And he's also going to become purple because he's going to be this object. Okay, it's all going to become this one object.
Attached to that purple object, so you'll inherit everything that the purple object currently is.
Absolutely. So click. He's purple. That's the weird, freaky thing that we actually made just a few minutes ago before we got to see it all smoothed out. And you can see he is now purple. And look at my bounding box. It surrounds both of these objects because we're only dealing with one object. Let's go ahead and come out of attach. And let me show you by coming up here to select by name, open up the select objects dialog box, and all we have is one object in our scene, box 01. So let's go ahead and close that out. And now let's come back in here. If let's say vertex, I grab vertex, you can see now I'm dealing with the vertices of both of these guys, again, being treated as a single object. But if I come down here now to element, check this out. Select this guy, he's an element. Select this guy, he's an element. And I have the ability to go in here and reposition these elements around however I may need to. So I can move that around. I can move this guy around. If I wanted to grab rotate and rotate him around, I get all of this control now when working with element subobjects.
So Max remembers what objects were individual before they were attached.
Yeah, absolutely. Or if they're separate pieces of geometry that's away from each other, they're treated as separate elements as well.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that's going to do it for me for this lesson right here. The whole idea was nothing more than just to introduce you to basic concepts like what is a polygon, what is an editable poly, then to move into how can we take a standard primitive and actually convert a standard primitive into an editable poly, and to mention that we could also convert NURBS and patches, etc., into editable polys as well. And then I also took the time to show you that we could take shapes and convert them over into editable polys, and we made something strange out of it. And then we just took a look at the 5 different subobject types that are available inside an editable poly, and we did a little bit of manipulation with those subobject types. We talked about attaching, and we spent just a second and we took a look at subdivision surfaces using NURMS to give us a nice smoothed out look with the one strange looking thingamajig that I made. So that's going to pretty much conclude it for this lesson. This should be enough to get a beginner up and running and comfortable with the concept of an editable poly. So now let's go ahead and move into some other lessons where we actually take the time to start looking at all of the different things that we have available to us over here in these rollouts. So thanks a lot, guys.